I'm at the beginning of my career, but it's been a wild ride. I commit to things before I know that they're going to work. Fuck it, like just fail. The fluctuations of freelancing is extremely intense. I just keep moving towards something, like pick a goal, journal out all my goals and then just keep chipping away at them. When I got approached for the first commission, she pitched me the project. I was like, yeah, sounds great, I'd love to do it. And then she was like, so email me what you think would be your budget. And I was like, okay, yeah. I'm at home like, what the fuck? I've never been paid to make a film before. Like, what am I gonna do? I mean, like, that's the stuff they don't teach you in film school as well.
And that's what you need to know.
I know. Very quickly just realised that it was such like a bad environment, but I just kept not listening to that side, my gut that was like, get out of this. So I don't know what happened to that production after I left, but I hope it burned in hell.
Hello, welcome back to the She Who Dares Wins podcast, and my guest is Meg Wriggles. Welcome to the podcast.
Than's for having me.
You're welcome.
I've never been on a podcast before.
What? This is your first?
Yeah.
I am privileged. You're going to get the same question as everyone else, though. So, She Who Dares Wins. Can you tell me how you've dared and won?
Oh, God.
Tell me about your career, like you told me last night. It's pretty incredible.
Well, how have I dared? I guess just by... I commit to things before I know that they're going to work. So I think I just jump right in. My career is very fresh. I'm at the beginning of it. I graduated last summer from Edinburgh College of Art doing film. And while I was at uni, I started a queer skate collective, girls, non-binary and queer skate collective in Edinburgh. And that was really just to get the community going, get more young girls skating, get more queer people skating. We hosted gigs, jams, art auctions. We did one event that was to raise money for the Joshua Nolan Foundation, which is a charity in Edinburgh that helps people pay for therapy and counselling. So we run community events. And then I got my first film commission. And off the back of that, I started up Foundry Films, which is a film production company based in Edinburgh. And we also are really interested in, bringing the community together, getting more girls into the film industry, specifically into technical roles. So we host yearly exhibitions in Edinburgh. So yeah, I'm at the beginning of my career, but it's been a wild ride.
You say beginning, there's so much you've achieved, because not many people come out of uni and get a film commissioned and produce what you have produced. And then most people will probably do a career for 10, 15 years, then start up something that helps other people.
Yeah, it floods me with imposter syndrome, but I just try and quieten that voice. The first film commission was in my second year at uni, and that was just...
How did that come around?
So I got one of our assignments at uni was to make a 3-minute documentary about anything that we wanted. And there was this artist who lectures at the uni, Kenny Hunter. He's a really amazing sculptor, and I've admired his work for years. He has a piece. He's got pieces all around the UK. There's one in London near Brick Lane. Have you been to Brick Lane a lot?
Yes.
Do you know when you go out of the station and then there's that sculpture of the goat on top of all those boxes?
It's been a while since I've been there.
Well, go back. It's a sick
Okay.
sculpture, and I used to admire it when I was a young, edgy teenager going to Brick Lane to hang out. And then when I went to Edinburgh and I found out that he lectured there, I asked him if I could, for my uni assignment, make a little doc about him. So I made a 3-minute doc. And then, a year later, when he got commissioned to do a massive memorial for the Royal College of Surgeons to commemorate the NHS staff that worked really hard and some who lost their lives fighting COVID, he got commissioned to make a sculpture. And they had budget and they wanted to make a documentary about his process and interviewing the NHS staff that kind of inspired the piece. And then I spent 2 years making that documentary, and that was really amazing because I'm an artist myself. I do a lot of oil painting, not as a career. I've made a conscious decision to keep that sacred to my own artistic and spiritual self. I decided I just don't want that to be something that I use to make money or try and make money off. So I'm really interested in art. So it was amazing to kind of combine the two and make a documentary following an artist and his his process, because I never knew about what goes into making a bronze sculpture. Like, it's unreal. There's so many phases. There's so many people that work on it. But also not just looking at the material process that goes into creating the sculpture, but also his inspirations and, you know, his research phases, talking to the NHS staff. We filmed his interviews with them. And yeah, it became a really nice crossover between art and medicine, and kind of finding the similarities, the visual similarities between them, and exploring that. And it was so inspiring to get to like work really closely with Kenny, because he's just such an amazing artist, really refined his style and his skill, and it was such an amazing first project. So yeah, that was just really lucky it came about.
I'm guessing it wasn't so much luck, as more that it was a talent.
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know.
I will say it, you don't have to.
Bit of both.
And so a perfect passion again, not many people I guess would get a passion project for their first.
Yeah, it was amazing. It just combined like everything I was really interested in. And then I had Skate Boobs running on the side, which was doing loads of work for it as well at the time, running events. We were running weekly skate workshops, running the socials like with the rest of the boobs. So that was a lot of work, and that was in my second and third year of uni. And then once that finished the edit, we sent it, still in the festival circuit.
What's that called?
What's the film called?
Yeah.
It's called Your Next Breath, which is the same. We just stole his title of the sculpture. And you can go and see the sculpture. It's available for public viewing in Edinburgh at the Royal College of Surgeons. It's an amazing work of art, so moving. It's a 4-piece bronze sculpture of NHS workers in their scrubs. And the documentary will be out. We're hoping to release it publicly in January 2025, which will be 5 years since the first UK COVID outbreak. So it's really like a memorial piece, you know. It's meant to bring people back to reflect on like the NHS, the position it's in now, you know, the huge backlogs. That's all a result of COVID. So that was a very slow, contemplative. How do you say that word?
Yeah, I think that's right. I'm terrible with words. It works.
Contemplative. I don't know. Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Reflective.
That's the
No.
There you go. Yeah.
Whatever.
No. We'll
It's
go
a
with
slow. It's a slow, very slow piece of film, which I really enjoyed making. And then my next film, which I just had the idea for when I was on a surf trip, walking along this fucking cliff edge in Scotland, following some dickhead who I met off Tinder, who was a surfer, and he was like, let's go on a surf trip. And it was the middle of March, it was freezing cold. I was like, well, I just said yes, and I can't surf very well, and it was cold, and we're walking for hours to this bothy, and I'm carrying the surfboard, it's really windy, it's dark, I'm on the edge of a cliff, being turned into a fucking sail, like being blown by the wind, thinking I'm going to blow off the edge of the cliff. I'm walking for hours, I'm thinking, why am I walking? Why am I not on a horse? This would be so much easier. And then I had the idea to do a surf trip on horses, and that's what inspired White Horses, which was my second short film, surf film, that was in collaboration with Red Bull and Roxy. And
I mean, come on, the two like biggest. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, those connections, I got that just through skating and like Skate Boobs. You know, Red Bull have helped Skate Boobs out a lot, and had some connections with Surf Dome through Skate Boobs, and then just used that network, you know, told them about my filmmaking and that I really want to do that. And it wasn't a lot of money, it was a really small, modest amount of money, and it was a big challenge to do such an ambitious trip on that budget. But yeah, you just have to ask for it, don't you? You're just not going to get it if you don't ask. Just be bold. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're just going to be told to fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things, isn't it? Is just making that step and just knock on the door and see what happens.
And ask and, like, be ambitious. Like, I had a film lecturer who, like, he just told me, my feedback was just, you're just trying to be too ambitious. And, like, it just used to really annoy me because it's like, I'm in film school, like, everyone should always be ambitious. Like, I don't understand why that's a bad thing. And I do kind of understand it. You know, sometimes you might fail because you've just bitten off way more than you can chew and it's unrealistic. But fuck it. Like, you've got to fail. And White Horses was not what I expected at all. Like, it was really difficult. There was no waves. It was a surf film and there was no waves. And I was trying to work with animals and the weather. And, like, it was definitely a challenge. But fuck it. Like, just fail.
And what's the plan for that film? Is it going on the festival circuit?
Yeah, so White Horses, we did put through the festival circuit. I didn't apply to like as prestigious festivals with White Horses because just felt it was more of like a concept film, you know, like an adventure surf film. Whereas with Your Next Breath, we only really applied to like BAFTA and BIFA qualifying festivals, and we've just submitted to BIFA, so that's good. And then White Horses, it was mainly just like surf festivals, so it's screened at London Mountain Film Festival, and then screening here at Camp VC, and then it's screening on the Isle of Tyree at Sea Change Film Festival, and then it's going public on the 19th of August on Girls in Film. Nice. So that's where it's being hosted online. So yeah, they were very different festival circuits, I guess, because they had different like aims for the films and felt like the films belonged in different areas. So yeah. And
what's the female? You're setting up a collaborative, right, with other filmmakers. The Female Foundry is always a production company.
So Foundry Films is a women-led production company. It's really small. We're a tiny startup. We only started up off the back of Your Next Breath 2 years ago, and we run yearly events. We just had one. It was an art exhibition in Glasgow. Had such an amazing group of artists. It was all focused on nature and like art and nature. The title was Creative by Nature, and it was a multimedia exhibition. So we had sculptures, amazing artists, like some really well-renowned artists. It was to promote a film I just finished about an artist duo called DL and Scullion. They're a Scotland-based duo who make a lot of work around nature. They're really amazing artists, like done Venice Biennale and solo talks at the Tate, and I just find them so inspiring. And I asked them, they live on the Isle of Lewis, in a really remote part of the Isle of Lewis, and I just sent them a message and was like, can I come and stay at your house? Because they've made this house, it's like a guest house, but it's also like a living piece of art that you can stay in. And I knew they'd built it, and I said, can I come and stay in that for a month, and I'll like do whatever you want in return as my rent? And they were like, yeah, sure. So I went out there and I was like, so what do you want doing? And they were like, we really want a dry stain dike, you know, like a dike, like a walled garden. So I built them a walled garden. It took a month of like stacking rocks. And I also made them a short film about their house that they've built, which is called Hona. HO for home and NA for nature, like a home in nature. This amazing house that's curated so beautifully. So I made a short film about that and about their life on Lewis. So the exhibition in Glasgow, Creative by Nature, was to launch that film, which I'm not doing festival circuit or anything with that film. It was really just to keep myself busy. I didn't have a lot of work this winter, and I just wanted to keep flexing that muscle. So that's why I went out there and did that. And I love being in remote places, and it's a really powerful landscape, the Isle of Lewis. So
you're so driven by, like, I guess most people come out of film school and go and be a runner, or, you know, your passion, you're just chasing it.
Yeah, I do want to do like just grafting work. Like I would love to I've never really worked on like big sets, because I'm just usually like on my own tiny sets, and I'd love to see how those like massive sets work. Just always like distracted by some other mad vision.
Because you do a lot of social media too, with like van life.
Yeah,
and it's constant creation. And I was going to say to you, what do you do in the creative world when there's the lulls and the lows of, you know, waiting for the next project or waiting for the next funding? How do you keep going? It's hard, right, emotionally?
Yeah, it's incredibly hard. The fluctuations of freelancing is extremely intense, and like I naturally am quite an up and down person. Like I really feel life in its extremes, and being a freelancer, I think, just amplifies that. So what I try and do is, when it's quiet, and it's been quite quiet, you know, I'm new, I'm really trying to find my niche and like my place in the industry, and the last winter has been quite quiet. So that's why I just keep I just keep moving towards something, like pick a goal, you know, journal out all my goals and then just keep chipping away at them. So that was like, you know, with the DL and Scullion one, that was just a way of, it was like, right, well, I don't have any work that's going to pay me. So how can I keep myself busy and keep flexing my creative muscle, you know, in any way that I can, you know, with the resources that I've got. So that, you know, getting free accommodation out there, and they were like feeding us a lot and like just being really amazing in return for some manual labor, while I also got to make a film about them, was amazing. And then when I got back, I've been working on my first public funding application, which is for a documentary with another artist based in Scotland called KMG, that I really, really have a lot of passion for this documentary. And doing a funding application for me was something I never thought I could do. I'm working on this film at the moment without a producer, so I was having to do like a lot of spreadsheets, and I've never done anything like that before. I'm really focused on the visual creative stuff usually, so I was thrown in the deep end with like funding apps, and
It's the business side, right?
yeah, and I didn't think I could do it, but I just like chipped away at it, one task at a time. I did get some support. I mean, they keep it really quiet, but like, I don't know about Creative England. Is it called Creative England?
Yeah, still, yeah.
So Creative Scotland keep it quite quiet, but if you have any kind of like processing or learning difficulties, you can get access support, and they'll pay someone to help you with that stuff, like just to give you a bit of guidance. So I heard about that and I used that, and that was like such a hack. And they keep it so quiet, like, I mean, it makes sense why they do, but they should, like, that should be on billboards, that you can get that support to help you do those funding applications. And
It's overwhelming.
yeah, they're crazy, they're massive. I mean, it took months and months of work, and I have faith that I'll get that funding. I really.
Do you mind me asking how much you're going for, like,
So
within a range?
We're going for just over 40k.
So it's the next step up. It's the next
Yeah,
level
it's the
up.
next step. I've never had funding above 20k before, so that'll be a nice, like, I think it's good to make those. You have to keep going up, right?
Yeah.
So that'll be really good, and it's just for a short film. It's for a multi-art form project, so it'll also be like exhibitions and workshops all around Scotland, and it's focusing on the Highland clearances, and sort of ancestral and generational trauma and knowledge, and how it gets passed down, and yeah, really focusing on understanding that trauma through art, with this amazing she's a female graffiti artist called KMG. She's so cool. She's such an inspiration. She makes such sick street art. She's got like huge murals all over Scotland, and they're always focused on kind of heritage and history. So I think that'll be an amazing project. So hopefully we'll get the funding. I feel like it's really like socially valuable as well. But yeah, it was mega doing that application. I'm so glad it's done.
Well, it's an interesting thing. We talk about a lot of creative people, struggle to, I am the same, struggle with the business side of things, because it's the stuff you don't really want to do. It's not fun. And so my mind literally defies me and goes, no, you're not doing it. You don't want to do it. And not enough people talk about it, because everyone just assumes that if you're on your own, that you just do it and you crack on. But the reality is, it's a fucking struggle.
Yeah, it is.
Until you get to a point where you have a big production and you can pay a producer.
Yeah, you can just delegate.
Yeah, and we're all dreaming to get there.
I know. You just have to like find out a way that you can make it work,
like
on
hack
your
the
own.
system almost.
Yeah, and part of that is like asking for help. Like, there are systems in place, especially if it's public funding. They have to make it accessible. You know, if you're a single parent, if you're a carer, if you have anxiety, if you have ADHD, dyslexia, whatever, like, you know, it is more difficult. And there are like bigger obstacles in making those funding applications more difficult and less accessible to people like us. So, you know, part of it, I think, is accepting that and owning that and not feeling ashamed and like you're a burden, and then asking someone for help. And those funding bodies, I think, are responsible to make sure that help is in place, you know, and it is. Well, it is in Scotland, and that was really, really helpful, having that support for me. I mean, it's still like an unbelievably stressful amount of work to do, and at some points it almost gave me cold feet on the whole project. But you have to just remind yourself, like, you know, I think like writing out your goals, having vision boards, like, you have to keep bringing yourself back. Like, why do I need to do this? Why am I doing this? Like, because occasionally, you know, I'm like 6 hours deep into a spreadsheet, the hyperfixation is wearing thin, and I'm like, why? I can't do this. Like, this isn't fucking worth it. But then you just remind yourself, like, why you feel like this project needs to exist in the world, and then hopefully that gives you the urge to complete it. And then just viewing it as one step at a time. I cannot view it as one enormous
project,
45-page application. Like, it's just first I do this, then I do this, and it's just tiny bits at a time. Then it's really satisfying.
Break it down into chunks and like achieving little steps. I want to ask you about film school, and also your mum's influence on you, because we spoke a little bit about that last night. And film school, how many girls in the class?
Oh yeah, there was quite a lot of girls. I think there was actually more girls than boys in my film class.
That's good. That's like a first that I've heard.
Really?
Still now, like
yeah, I think maybe it was quite evenly split
in terms of who wanted to go out there and do direct or camera operated versus producing.
Yeah, I think there was only 1 or 2 girls who wanted to do technical roles, 1 girl who wanted to do camera operating, DOP, and then 1 girl maybe who wanted to do sound, and there was like quite a few guys who were a lot more technical. But the majority of people in my film class, regardless of gender, were wanting to be writer directors or producers.
Right, okay.
I think that is just like definitely more oversaturated. Film school is an interesting one for me.
I feel like it's yeah.
Fucking hell. I mean,
do you feel like it's worth it?
Yes and no. Okay. I feel like what's so valuable, more valuable than anything they can teach you in film school, is if you have the space to just focus on your craft. Like whether you're getting a student loan or someone's subsidising your uni or whatever it is, I think it just allows you to focus on your filmmaking or your craft or whatever you're at uni for. Like I just spent those 4 years being, really working out what do I want to do, and I just did it myself. Like I really loved my film lecturers, a couple of them. Don't get me wrong, like I'm really grateful to have had that experience, but the majority of what I gained out of those 4 years of being at uni was having the freedom to just like only think about filmmaking and not have to work a full-time job. Or have that pressure to like suddenly be in the industry. And like, if I just gone straight out of school into the industry, I think then it's like a huge pressure. You have to start at the bottom, do running and stuff. And like I did do a bit of running while I was at uni, but mainly it was just like, working out what I want to do, what kind of films I want to make, and sort of just starting to build a portfolio up, I think was the most valuable thing. But I found uni really hard. I found it really hard to fit in with my peers.
Right.
I just found that like they didn't like me. I think.
Really?
Well, yeah, I don't do well in like educational environments, and like we were talking about last night, it might be an issue that I'm sort of projecting from my past, like from issues in my past, growing up in school and constantly being told like you're disruptive, you're stopping other people from learning, all this stuff. It might be coming from within me. I'm sure it probably is, but like a lot of the time, it's inaccessible. It's like a 4-hour lecture and I have to sit in one spot the whole time, maybe with one 20-minute break. I'm like,
it's crazy.
What's the point? I'm done after the first 20 minutes. Like, and then I just become like really hyperactive and like I probably am distracting other people, and I just didn't find it accessible.
That is not a good environment. That should be wholly supportive.
I know. And I remember like when I got approached for the first commission about the sculptor, I went for a meeting with the head of marketing. She was like, so she pitched me the project. I was like, yeah, sounds great. I'd love to do it. And then she was like, so like you give me a quote and, email me what you think would be your budget. And I was like, okay, yeah,
oh, no,
sure.
I hate that.
I know. So then I'm at home like, what the fuck? I've never been paid to make a film before. Like, what am I going to do? We ended up getting about 20k, and that was great for me. That was great. I mean, we didn't get paid loads. I barely, it was a 2 years in production. I didn't make much money off it, but like, it was completely invaluable experience that we ended up spending most of the budget on 16mm film. So like I said to the crew at the beginning, I mean, the crew was actually me, a DOP, and then we got an editor in later down the line, and my producer Lottie Thomas, who I run Foundry Films with. And I said at the beginning, I was like, so do we want to pay ourselves the money, or do we want to shoot on 16mm? And then they were like, 16mm. So we spent most of the budget on film, which I don't regret. It was great because we just wanted a really nice portfolio piece. It was our first short film.
Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? Like, you've got something that you want to work on. You don't want the door to just be shut in your face.
Quoting for projects is fucking awful. Like, exactly, you want to get good money, you want to pay yourself, you want to pay your crew properly, but you also don't exactly want the door to shut in your face. And that happens to me all the time. Like, people will you completely miss out on getting anything because you quoted too high. But working on something when you're not getting paid right is worse than not getting the job at all, I think.
I would, agree.
I mean, I am a little, if you're really skint, then like some money's better than no money, but it will compromise your craft,
your value,
compromise your self-worth, and you won't be able to make something you feel really proud of. But again, like, I think you have to choose your battles. Like, I will work on stuff for little or no budget if I feel like it's really right, or you might get funding down the line. You have to choose each time depending on the project, like what feels authentic and right for you, and just listen to your gut.
Someone recently said to me, someone else on the podcast, that I was talking about projects and YouTube sponsorship and all that kind of thing. I was like, it's such a dark art when sponsorship reach out, because some have huge budgets, some don't. Some you want to do, you're desperate to do because it's a passion project, but you equally want to get paid. And then I was like, and then there's projects that come up that probably do have a big budget, but you don't really want to do them. And Hannah was like, well, for those big projects, then you don't really want to do them, but they have the money, you add a dickhead tax. And I was like, what's a dickhead tax? She was like, well, they're like dickheads that you have to work for. And you just add a huge tax on it. And then if you get the project, you're like, actually, I don't mind working on it.
That is so true.
Because of the money.
If you really don't want to do it, you just... Definitely.
But then there's the middle ground projects where it's fucking cool, or you're pitching something that you're so desperate to get made, and it doesn't quite fit the remit of, we've got massive budget for that.
Yeah. It's so hard. I mean, like, that's the stuff they don't teach you in film school as well.
And that's what you need to know.
I know. Like, that is the stuff they should be teaching you, like how to properly work out what you need for a budget, how to properly work out, like, what you're worth at what point in your career, like, that is a minefield, and like, there's barely any resources on it. Like, I just find it so hard to know what to quote to who. It's an absolute nightmare. If any future clients are watching this,
just be open, right?
Yeah,
just
it's really hard. It's just like secret language that I don't understand.
How important is it for you? Like, obviously, you set up your production company to see more women, non-binary, LGBTQ plus represented in the industry?
Yeah, I think it's essential. It's a weird industry because I've not worked on any massive productions, but like straight out of uni, I worked on a production. I've always been really invested in like making sure there's more equal opportunity, and especially that there's more women and non-binary and queer people in the technical roles, which I feel like are really, really male-dominated. Like grips, soundies, sparks, gaffers. Like, those are really, really male roles, and really think if you're going to have an actual equal crew, there needs to be more women, and that's always been a passion, but it was really solidified on my first job out of uni, and one of the first jobs I've had in a long time where like I wasn't crewing the team, and it was a short film. It was it was a series, not for TV. It was just like a short film series in Scotland. And I'm not going to name names, but I would love to, but I'm not going to because I don't know what would happen.
Yeah,
but
you need to protect your career.
Oh my god, it was a very masculine story. Also very, very Scottish story. So I think that from the offset, I felt like probably like a little bit of an outsider, but I was really invested. I got it as a result of my grad screening. You know, my uni lecturer put me up on this job, and there was like some big names attached to it, and also living wage pay, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but I was like, okay, at least it's living wage, and there was some big names, and I was being offered an AD role. It was my first AD role, so I was really excited. Started going to the read-throughs every week. This was like in June last year. Started going to the read-throughs, spent all summer going to the read-throughs. Very masculine story about the drug scene in Scotland, kind of like a cop drama based in Scotland. And it was fine. Like, I was enjoying it. It was work, you know, I was ADing. I started to quickly realise there was very little crew. It was me and one other girl from my course who'd got dragged onto it too, and she was coming a lot less than me because she had other work. So I was sort of like doing everything more than an AD should do, going to every read through every week, scheduling it, crewing it. I wasn't managing the budget, thankfully, but you know, just being the director's like right-hand man, doing a lot of work, really putting my heart into it. All the actors were men. It was a very male crew. There was a few women. Very male cast, very male crew, like me and one other girl. And then there was a DP and the AC, and they were guys. And Sandy was a guy, small crew. And then all the actors were just like the director's mates that he knew from like fighting. And I very quickly just realised that it was such like a bad environment, but I just kept I just kept not listening to that side, my gut that was like, get out of this, because I just thought, you get that voice in your head that's like, you need this opportunity, like you can't turn down this opportunity, you don't know when you're going to get your next one, you know, you don't know what this might lead to, there's big names attached. Those big names was bullshit. They were never actually attached to it. The director had worked on Train Spotting and stuff, so I just thought like, it's really easy to think someone's something they're not.
Better than they are,
and then,
yeah.
By the time we actually got to shooting, we got to production, after months of pre-prod, like we start shooting in October, I think, and I've already done loads of work. I've not seen a penny, but I'm working my ass off, you know, up until 10 p.m, like getting all these cast in, and then I'm always the only girl on set, always the only girl, and like, unless there was a couple of times there was a makeup artist on set and there would be another girl there, but I was always the only girl, and of course always the only English person. And then they just started getting a bit comfy. The cast would start saying things to me like, you know, I'd be putting a bit of tape on the floor, and then they'd come up to me and be like, yeah, on your knees. Or like, I'd be like asking the director, like, I'm just going to do a coffee run, like, what do you want? He'd be like, I just want you. And I'd just be like, okay. So just trying to stay professional. Also, like, you don't want to be like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Like, because you're like, that's my boss. Like, I want to be professional. So you just take it. And then you just don't listen to yourself. You just keep suppressing it and trying to work because you just want to be the best you can be. Then one day on set, like, the director's ex-girlfriend was there because he was using his baby in a scene, and I was outside on a break having a cigarette, and then she comes down with the pram because she's leaving. They've finished the scene with the baby, and she's walking out, and she's like, I'm like, oh, do you need a hand with the pram? Because she's trying to get out into the garden. And then she just like runs up to me and grabs me by the collar and goes, what the fuck do you think you're doing? And I was like, what? And she was like, you think I don't know what's going on between you and the director? I was like, what? Like, I'm at work. Also, he's like 40. And then I was like, I'm at work. I just kept saying, I'm at work. I thought she was going to punch me in the face. She was screaming at the top of her lungs. And everything was just so unprofessional. And it just got worse and worse. I won't keep going on about it, but I ended up walking. Eventually, I walked off the set.
I was going to say, did you get off the
Yeah,
project?
I just walked off one day. He shouted in my face in front of a cast of like 30 men. I was the only girl in this huge room. I'd been up so late the night before working, and then he shouted in my face, was like, are you fucking stupid? I was like, don't call me stupid. And he was like, I didn't call you stupid, I asked you a question. And then I was like, and then that was when I walked off, and it felt so fucking good to walk off. So just listen to your gut. like, but yeah, anyway, back to the question you asked. There needs to be more women, because if there was more women on that set, not only would I have had the solidarity to have been like, you know, if there's someone else there I can go, this is really bad, isn't it? Like, I'm being treated really badly, right? Then they'd be like, yeah, then I would have walked off. But like, you gaslight yourself, because like, you just continuously tell yourself, no, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Like, you're just being sensitive, you know, you need to just get this, you need this work, whatever. You just gaslight yourself. And so there needs to be a few women on set, so you have the solidarity and someone to go to be like, by the way, this isn't right, is it? And then they say no, and then you have the self-assurance to walk off that fucking set. And also just because, like, if there was more women on that set, I don't think he would have felt like he could have talked to me like that.
No.
So yeah, there's some really horrendous environments, I think, especially when it's like really low budget, unregulated work like that. Like, it wasn't like major funding. There was no massive like funding names attached to it, so they're not like, and I
think though, crazy enough, I think still the big budget stuff, it's happening.
Yeah, I just don't know, because I've not been on those sets, but I mean, it's really sad if it is, but I imagine, yeah, it probably isn't ideal, and it's still like really, you know, not equal, especially in the technical roles. And if there's like just loads and loads of like male gaffers and grips and sparks, and they're all guys, then you have like one or two women, they're going to feel that, you know, it's easier for people to get away with making really rude comments, or for things like sexual assault or sexual harassment to go brushed under the rug, because there's not like correct
repercussions.
Yeah.
I felt the same way on a construction site, like things that were said every day, all day, and there's no one else there to call upon it or to look around, and I just took it as the norm. It was only until I started sharing my story with my mates, they were like, dude, that is not normal. Like, cannot do that. And you do sometimes need just some ally, whether it's male or female, to just go, no, this is not cool.
I know.
Because you become, you think you don't think you're the victim, you just think you're the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's fucking not the case.
Like, I used to come home from set and just cry and cry, and my flatmates would be like, just leave. But then I just gaslight myself into thinking I'm probably just replaying the story and like, not how it was, and you know, they're probably not being as bad as they are, until I just snapped. And then it just felt so good to walk off that set and be like, fuck you. And then I got paid 400 quid for like 8 months work, and I was just like, Jesus, this guy is just full of shit. And like, then I don't think they did much more. I think the DOP and the AC sent me a message saying they'd walked off in solidarity afterwards, which was really nice. So I don't know what happened to that production after I left, but I hope it burned in hell.
Do you think it was I don't know, I would say, looking back now, do you think that's a good experience that you had quickly, so that you're now like, fuck it, I'm on my own, I'm singing to my own hymn sheet, and I'm going to create something? It's probably going to be immensely hard, but I feel like
it was good for me to learn, like, you know, if I run my own production company, how I want it to be, and how you need to have correct whistleblowing procedures in place, and you need people to feel safe, and like, creativity comes from people feeling free and relaxed, and also that filmmaking is a collaboration, and like, my voice as AD was just like never really like, even, you know, with just like logistical stuff, I just felt taken advantage of the whole time. And you just want everybody to feel valued and that they know their place and their role. A lot of the time on that set as well, he would expect me to look after his kids, and like, I really feel like no man would ever be there was other men there who could have looked after his kids, but I was busy. I was doing absolutely every role, like. And then I also on set had to be a nanny, and I'm like, this is just because I'm a woman, and you're expecting me to look after your kids all day while I'm also clapperboarding, scheduling, making sure the cast is all right, getting coffees, like making take notes, like literally everything. And then I also have to look after your kids.
It's absurd.
I know, but also I don't think anyone should have to go through that. That's also something they should teach you in film school, about that kind of stuff, and how to make sure that everyone on your crew like feels safe and happy and creative. But yeah, I guess it was good. There's silver lining to everything. I'm glad I don't regret anything. Like, I learned some lessons, but yeah, it's a shame.
It is a shame. It shouldn't have to be the case, should it? We shouldn't be talking about this. We shouldn't have these experiences still. And I mean, yeah, it's so much has to change. So, and in many industries,
Yeah.
I'm glad that you have, you know, you've got a head on you that you seem beyond your years. You just do. I get that vibe from you, and you do, and I think your career is only going to go from strength to strength because of that. You have such great self-awareness, and
Oh, shucks.
no, you do, and I think anyone that's going to work with you from a production point of view to have that knowledge that you've got now, and the creativity and the spark and the passion, along with that awareness of how you want things to be run. I only hope that there is some justice there in the industry when it comes to funding and people that can back these projects, that they then sit up and think, let's change it. Let's allow, a predominantly female production team to do these projects.
Yeah. I would love to get more, be able to have crews that have way more girls in the technical roles. Just I worked on one film when I was at uni. It was one of my first jobs in the industry when I was still at uni. I was actually DIT, which was crazy, doing data when you have ADHD. I was like, when they gave me the job, I was like, you do know. I was like, whatever, I'll take it. I want this job. So I took the job, I did it. I actually smashed it. It was fine. There's a software that does it all for you. But that was a very, very female crew, female DOP, female director, female producer. Also lots of men, but that was one of my first jobs in the industry while I was in second year uni. And I just remember thinking, this is great. This is great. I love it here. The vibes are amazing. And then my first job out of uni, I was like, this is hell. I hate it. What's happened? But yeah, we definitely need more like that. More safe sets with girls and equal and queer people and people who feel open, like they can be themselves.
Yeah. I'm so excited. Listen, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thanks for having me.
You're incredible. I am really fucking excited, not only to watch your films, but to follow your career. Keep smashing it. Please don't give up. And you're going to be inspiring the next generation.
Thanks. That was epic.
Amazing. Thanks, dude.